Hey everyone, and welcome. So, let me ask you something. What if history wasn't just a series of random events? What if society actually moved in a totally predictable cycle of power, greed, and, eventually, revolution? Today, we're diving into Prout, a philosophy that says it's cracked the code on this cycle, and it offers a pretty radical blueprint for our future. Right out of the gate, Prout hits you with this. It's a really powerful idea. What it's basically saying is that any society built on greed and exploitation by a wealthy class, that's the Vaishyas, is absolutely destined to face a revolution from the working class, the Shudras. Notice the word choice there. It's not a maybe, it's presented as an inevitability. And that really brings us to the massive question at the heart of this whole thing. What if the rise and fall of empires, all these big shifts in power, what if they aren't just disconnected events? What if there's a pattern? A cycle that we can actually understand and even predict. Okay, let's dive into this. So, at the very core of Prout is this idea that history is like a constantly turning wheel. It argues that society is always dominated by one of four distinct types of people or mindsets. And this isn't a fixed system. No, it's a predictable rotation they call the social cycle. According to this theory, history moves through these four ages. You start with the Shudra era, the age of laborers, which is kind of disorganized. Then that gives way to the Kashira era, the age of warriors, who come in and impose order with muscle. After them, you get the Vipras, the intellectuals, who rule with ideas, religion, and laws. And finally, we enter the Vaishya era, the age of capital, where money is king and merchants call the shots. And once that age peaks, the cycle is ready to start all over again. So what keeps this wheel turning? Well, it's a pretty predictable pattern of decay, really. Each group that takes power, they start out by governing and organizing society, bringing something new. But over time, their rule sours into exploitation. The warriors become tyrants, the intellectuals become rigid and dogmatic, and the merchants just become consumed by greed. And it's that very exploitation that lights the fuse for the next revolution, spinning the whole cycle forward. Okay, so where does that leave us right now? According to Prout, we are living deep in the Vaishya age, the age of capitalists. And from this point of view, our modern world is basically a masterclass in exploitation. And this philosophy has a really sharp critique of modern democracy. I mean, look at the promise versus the reality here. The promise is government by the people, but the reality, Prout argues, is that it's a tool for capitalists to just buy votes and influence. Instead of upholding justice, it can actually breed corruption and division. And instead of rapid progress, well, you get this super slow, tortoise-like evolution when what's really needed is a revolution. So, if things are so exploitative, why hasn't a revolution just happened? Well, Prout argues the system has some pretty powerful defense mechanisms. Psychologically, you've got fatalism, this belief that, whatever is fated will happen. Politically, things like the welfare state are seen as ways to just quiet down the masses and slow any real change. And economically, it's argued that workers can often be bought off with just small wage increases, keeping them from demanding a total system overhaul. So if the system is designed to prevent uprisings and the masses are held back, then who in the world is supposed to lead this change? Well, it's probably not who you're thinking. Prout points to a very specific group, the Vikshubd Shudras, the disgruntled laborers. Now, the crucial point here is that while they are part of the exploited working class, mentally, they're warriors or intellectuals. They have the guts of a kshatriya and the brains of a vipra. These are the people who can't be easily bought off or intimidated, and they're the ones who are the true source of fear for any tyrant. What this means is we're not talking about some spontaneous mob rising up in the streets. No, this has to be a planned movement. It's led by a vanguard, a disciplined, moral, and really courageous group that comes from within that exploited class, but has the vision and character to see it all the way through. And this is where we get to the most unique and central idea in this entire philosophy. From this revolutionary vanguard, a new kind of leader has to emerge, the Sadvipra. So a sadvipra is way more than just a revolutionary. They're defined as a moralist and a spiritualist, someone who actively fights injustice because of a deep internal compass. They're like a warrior and an intellectual rolled into one. But all their actions are guided by the strong ethical and spiritual foundation. They are, in essence, the ideal leaders. And their job, wow, their job is never, ever done. After they lead a successful revolution, their duty is to then watch the new leaders like a hawk. And the moment that new ruling class starts to become exploiters themselves, and the theory says they will, the Sadvipras have to be ready to lead another revolution against them. Their fight for a just society literally never rests. So, Sadvipras don't try to stop the social cycle. The philosophy says that's impossible anyway. Instead, they operate from its very center, right in the nucleus, acting as a catalyst. Their whole job is to speed up the rotation of that wheel, making sure no single group can dig in and exploit people for too long. They're basically managing the cycle for the good of humanity. So what's the ultimate point of all this? Is it just endless revolution? Not quite. The whole goal of a Sadvipra-led society is to completely redefine what we even mean by human progress. Now, this is where the philosophy really challenges our modern ideas. It says that progress in the physical world, getting more stuff, more comfort, is actually a zero-sum game. Every physical pleasure comes with a matching pain. Think about it. A car brings you comfort, but it also brings the risk of an accident. It says the same is true for intellectual progress. The more you know, the more anxieties you can have. The only true, unending progress, it argues, is spiritual. That movement toward the infinite, where every single step forward is a pure gain with no downside. And that right there is the grand vision. The whole point of Sadvipras managing the social cycle is to create a stable, just society where everyone's basic material needs are met. But, and this is key, not for the sake of getting rich. It's to create the foundation, the launching pad, so that all of humanity can finally focus on its real purpose, spiritual progress. So, this whole philosophy kind of leaves us with this huge question about our own future. Are we going to stay stuck in this slow, exploitative cycle that's driven by materialism? Or is another path actually possible? Prout's answer isn't one of despair. It's really a call to action and a vision of hope. It imagines a future that's guided not by these blind historical forces, but by conscious, moral, spiritual leaders who are dedicated to creating a truly new world for everyone. A powerful thought to leave you with. Thanks for joining me.